new studio that is not on 83rd Ave. And you are listening to
The Big
Picture
Podcast. Today we are chatting with the Mosquers Film Festival co-chair. Welcome. So Gunther.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Beautiful new studio, by the way.
Oh, we're so excited about it.
Very nice.
So who are you?
Who am I? That's a very existential question. Okay.
Yes.
That's what I always thought too. Right?
Yeah, no, as it relates to the Mosquers, I'm the co-chair. I've been on the team for, this is my 7th year, which is crazy.
Wow.
I've been chair/co-chair for the past 4 years.
Holy,
So,
yeah, I had no idea.
It's been fun seeing the growth of the organization over the last little while, but as it relates to today's topic, the who am I would be a co-chair of the Mosquers. Different day, different answer probably though.
Yeah.
Totally. And so being the co-chair of Mosquers,
Yeah.
what do you do? What does that mean?
That's a good question. I'm still figuring it out. We have a huge team, like relatively speaking. We've got about 30 people on our board.
Wow.
We're a non-profit, fully volunteer board, so this is like a passion project for everyone involved. No one is doing this as a full-time thing, even though ASA pretty much is these days. but so for that, it just there's a requirement to have a lot of different people working on kind of specific areas of focus, and my job is to help kind of bring everybody together, right? So that all the different pieces of the puzzle fit nicely together, so that hopefully by the end of it, we've got something that's pretty magical. The other big thing that I look after is some of our more kind of national and international partnerships. So whether that's through different, art and film bodies that we're trying to connect with, or different creatives that we're trying to tap into in different markets.
That part must be so exciting.
Yeah, that's been kind of my biggest initiative, I would say, over the last 5 years. Is how do we get this thing to be from a small grassroots little festival that's very Edmonton focused to truly on like an international and global stage. So that's been my biggest area of specific focus as a co-chair. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Good
And
times.
what is Mosquers Film Festival?
Good question. So we started back in 2006. So this is now the 16th year of the Mosquers, 15 of like actual festivals, but the organization was founded in 2006. And basically what it is back then, it was like 5 years after 9/11. There's a lot of kind of weird stuff in the media about Muslims, and a group of university students at the time was approached by this Center for Race Relations here in Edmonton, and basically they were told, why don't you guys, as like the young Muslim community, try to find a way in which you can dispel some of the misconceptions and stereotypes about Muslims, and do it in kind of a creative, artistic way. And so this initial group of the Mosquers team basically thought, okay, why don't we tell people, grab a camera and tell your own story, right? So the idea of like the Mosquers, i.e. like mosque and Oscars, kind of play on words, came about, and it was a huge hit right from the beginning. So the first festival, it was right in sub-stage at the University of Alberta, very kind of strong showing, mostly from the local community. And then from that point, it's kind of continued to grow and grow and grow. And it's now evolved into being a legitimate international film festival, which has submissions from literally all corners of the globe. We're a short film festival, so all the films in our category are 15 minutes and under. So we do programming throughout the entire year, but it's kind of capstoned by our main festival that happens annually. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we couldn't do it the last couple of years, but back this year. And so we've got a main showcase where we show all of our finalist films. We've got other forms of creative art also on display. So, we've done comedy in the past where we have like stand-up comedians come from all over the globe. We've got hip-hop. We've got musical guests. We've got spoken word artists. And then we added a second event a couple of years ago called Popcorn. because that's the best compliment to a movie, of course. And it happens right after our main showcase, which is at the Mosquers Center. And that is kind of where we can show mostly more of the local artistic scene and in a whole wide slew of different creative mediums. So paintings, photography, we've had wood burners in the past, calligraphers, and the space itself, we do a lot of work to actually make super unique as well. So the main festival weekend this year, we'll touch on it a bit later. We've got an additional event as well. So we got 3 different events happening over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, super excited about this year's event and that Friday event specifically too.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like everything is like, especially like, not post-COVID, but we're like allowed to do stuff now. Everything's
It's
coming
bubbling
back
up.
like
It's popcorning
bigger
up.
and better.
We're trying. We got delayed twice. Our first event we were supposed to do September 2020, and then we pushed it to October 2021, and then we pushed it again to now March 11th and 12th. So it's a lot of pent-up energy on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling too. I feel like I just set so many seeds down, and I'm just like waiting for them to grow. And it's like, okay, springtime's almost here, but it's not quite on the horizon yet. You know?
Totally. You know, I kind of almost feel bad for people who joined our team sort of in like December 2019, January 2020, and they have now been like almost literally like 2.5 years without any sort of like payoff, like big payoff.
Yeah.
And when you're in a volunteer organization like ours, where it's like leading up to something grand, you know, all those false starts, it's been a challenge for sure. Like even as a co-chair, like trying to keep everybody motivated, excited, and pushing towards that finish line. And then the finish line keeps moving. You know, it's definitely something we've had to be really, really aware of, and super excited to finally, fingers crossed, have it within eyesight
good,
now. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got some good volunteers then sticking around without like the payoff technically.
For sure.
That's awesome.
Super passionate group.
And so what kind of events and content is like available through Mosquers now?
So we started off with just that one event, right? That was the one kind of thing that we do every year, is like show the finalist films, might have a comedian come, and that was it, right? And then, as I mentioned, we added that second event called Popcorn, where it was kind of a continuation of the main showcase, purposely meant to be more intimate though. So our main event at the Mosquers Center, and by the way, I'll put this out there right now, this is an event meant for everybody, not just for the Muslim community. In fact, the intention, the original goal was to have this be an event where you could welcome the entire community, right? And showcase that we've got all these amazing creatives in sort of this Muslim community that is often just kind of very painted with one stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So that's so powerful.
Yeah, and we've got 1,500 plus people that show up at the Mosquers Center every year for our main showcase. And then immediately following it at Popcorn, we've purposely kept it a tighter crew.
Mm-hmm.
Still 500 people, so it's not like super intimate, but we sell out of that every year. In fact, we're down to like our last like 20 tickets right now. So it is something that
we gotta get them now.
Like not even joking. Like it'll probably sell.
Pause
out
the podcast.
No, we'll make sure you guys are covered. But so Popcorn, the main showcase, and then what we did was we started to add things throughout the year, right? So we do like panel events, we do filmmaking workshops, which again is open to everybody, not just the Muslim community, open to anyone who's interested in film as an artistic medium. We'll host like, you know, how to storyboard, how to edit, how to do videography, all sorts of different classes. And then we've done panel discussions with you know, different Muslim creatives who are in Hollywood or who are in, you know, the music industry, and just kind of talk through some of their unique challenges and perspectives as well. And then what we did, we started this thing called the Vibe series, where we wanted to specifically kind of shine a light on either a specific artistic medium or a specific group of individuals. So we did our first event back in February of 2020 for Black History Month, where we did an event specifically for Black Muslim creatives, and we had like 5 or 6 other events planned throughout the year for 2020, and then
yeah.
of course COVID happened, and like that kind of put a pause on everything. But that first event was like amazing. We had musicians and spoken word artists and comedians and singers, like all sorts of incredible artists from like the Black Muslim community, and just giving them that specific spotlight was huge, right? And we did that at the CKUA building, and like had 300 plus people there. It was awesome. So when everything kind of stopped due to COVID, we kind of pivoted a little bit, did it more virtually then. We did like a virtual paint night where we taught people how to do like, basic painting. We literally delivered materials to people's houses who registered to the event.
I was wondering how you do that.
Yeah, and we had like
wow,
like a professional painter like kind of walk everybody through it on Zoom. So we've tried to still do different things, and finally we had our first in-person event again in November. And this was another initiative of ours where we wanted to have a more purposeful environment and space for Muslim creatives, right? So an area where they could collaborate with each other, where they could potentially work on, whether it's turning a script into an actual finished product, or whether it was, trying to share resources, whether, photography studio type resources, editing bay type resources. So we had this vision of creating a makerspace, like an actual like creative lab for the Muslim community. We had a space even picked out, and we were working on all these applications to get grants to try to make this happen. And then when COVID happened, obviously put a pause on all of that due to the fact that this entire thing was intended to bring people physically into a space, confined areas. So what we did is we pivoted to do it digitally as well. So we said, okay, the first intention of this is to create collaborative opportunities. So let's at least try to gather a list of all the Muslim creatives here in Alberta, first and foremost. Let's put all their information available to on our website, so that if anyone is looking to hire a videographer, photographer, graphic designer, or whatever, and wants to support our Muslim community, they can definitely do that. And so we started to build this community of creatives, which had never before happened here in Alberta. And we wanted to, as soon as it was safe to do so, find a way to bring them together. And so we did an event in November we basically called it our Makerspace launch event. And so that was in the space that we originally kind of earmarked for the physical Makerspace. And that was amazing. With 200 plus people, again, like heavy creative driven event. So I would say more than half the crowd were actual creatives from the Edmonton community. We had their art on display, had a chance for people to buy the art if they were interested in doing so. And we had people walking off the street and buy art. It was awesome.
It's amazing.
People who are not Muslim, completely just oh my God, that looks cool, walking off the street and come and grab it, because the space was right across from the Westin Hotel, Jasper and 100 Street. So the old work hall studio. Just really prime location and opportunity to do that. So we do that, try to create opportunities for the creative community just in any way we possibly can. And then the last thing we've done, to kind of go back to your original question from 20 minutes ago, just apologies for the monologue, but
keep going.
But the last thing that we've done for this year, which is the first time we're doing it, is we were adding a second day to the festival, and it's going to be on the Friday, where the main show is on the Saturday, and we're calling it Opening Credits. And basically what it is it's again intended to be the largest gathering of Muslim creatives to ever exist. And we've invited and were able to get some sponsorship to help with the cost of travel and accommodation of 250 artists from all over the world. Wow. Literally. So that's going to be an amazing opportunity for people to just connect, to hopefully make some contacts that they haven't had before. We also wanted to invite two other types of people. Organizations that look to platform these individuals who obviously are less inclined to get that sort of a platform. So if we've invited organizations all over the US and Canada who kind of specifically look to shine a light on Muslim creatives. And then we also invited who we consider gatekeepers. So these would be large institutions that are kind of the decision makers behind what gets shown in mainstream media and what doesn't, right? So we've got, you know, representation from the Telefilm Canada, the National Film Board, CBC, you know, all these crown corporations. We've got NBC studios coming. We've got, you know, Netflix was invited to come out and send representation. We've got all sorts of different producers and studios coming to fill the room too. And yeah, so we're going to be doing a panel conversation with Sahar Jahani, who's like an amazing writer based out of LA. She's written on 13 Reasons Why. She was on Rami, The Bold Type, like a whole bunch of different like kind of big mainstream TV shows, and she's also adapting a bunch of books for like major studios right now and working on her own original script. We've got Hamza Haq on the panel. He's the star of Transplant, which is on CTV and NBC. We've got Zarka Nawaz, who made a show like about 10 years ago, I think it launched, called Little Mosque on the Prairie, which was like the first big mainstream like Muslim cast on Canadian television. It was for CBC. She made that and it was like a big deal, and she's now working on her next follow-up show. And so we have her, and then we've got Claude Jolicoeur, who's the president of the National Film Board for Canada. So so we're going to do, you know, really open, honest conversation amongst the four of them about, you know, how do we go from just wanting representation to now wanting nuanced representation, which is kind of the next step in, you know, how we can hopefully tell some more diverse stories in mainstream media.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is exciting. You got like 200 people from around the world.
It's pretty wild. Like we're blown away ourselves, to be honest, just to see like the reception.
Yeah, right. That's what I was thinking. It's incredible what you guys are doing. That's insane.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got a hardworking team.
Yeah, you guys have quite a bit there. There was like the Vibe festivals, there's the popcorn, the actual festival itself. Now you got the pre-festival now.
One other thing I'll mention before Asif kills me is we also have a podcast that we started about 3 years ago now. So we just wrapped our third season under the leadership and production of Asif, who's with us here today but silently sitting in the background. And that's been an amazing journey for us too, because it's just given us an opportunity to connect with this like wide array of different Muslim creatives. We've had WWE wrestlers on there who are Muslim. We've had like actors and singers and writers and professional video gamers, like this crazy disparity of Muslim creatives from all over the world, and that's just been like a super fun adventure just to kind of keep content fresh throughout the last 2 years as we've been dealing with COVID too. So yeah,
it's insane how it changes everything. Hey,
really,
everyone had to pivot onto some sort of online internet sort of. How can we virtually get together?
No, for real. Yeah.
It was good for while it lasted, but
yeah,
can't wait to go back to some sort of crowd
like,
dancing.
Even this, right? Like even recording a podcast or having like a conversation with people, doing it in person like we're doing right now is so much better. So much like, yeah, it's just a more genuine experience, I feel, than doing it over, you know, what we do it over, right? Like just over the computer and hoping that people's audio isn't screwed up. And, like, you know, it's. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's way better. We got juice boxes.
Oh my God, I got San Pellegrino. I'm living large. Like, this is a whole different life. We got candles.
Yeah, right? You can't pass that long. Camera screen.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That is too funny.
And it's like welcoming people into like, you know, your space. You're like,
entirely.
This is us. Who are you?
Completely agreed.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
It eats you up as soon as you walk in. It really does.
Yeah, there's
it's swallowed.
This is good. This is a good representation, I would say.
Can you like paint us a picture of what like an average event might look like, of average like Mosquers event?
Yeah, so the main showcase is like our big thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so that starts with a red carpet ceremony where literally there's a red carpet as people walk in. And it's at the Winspear Center, so I mean, you know, one of the most beautiful venues Edmonton has to offer. And after the red carpet, you've got this lobby, which we do a lot. Everything we do is very, like, we try to make things as unique and purposeful as we possibly can, right? So even when we're playing with, like, this amazing venue, the Winspire Center, we still try to make aspects of it super unique, right? So the lobby, we spend a lot of time, putting art installations within it, making interactive displays wherever we can.
Oh, that's awesome.
So you'll kind of explore that, and then once the show starts, it's a jam-packed. Literally, we were going over it today. This year's festival is going to be like literally from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. with like a 25-minute intermission, and like down to the 30-second mark. Like, it is crazy programmed. Like, and so this year we've got like amazing performances. I don't want to give away too much because there's a lot of like surprises that we have planned for the event. But we'll have, musical performances. We'll have some sort of artistic display at the start. Usually we have some spoken word, and then our host will come out, kind of get the crowd warmed up. We'll do our first batch of finalist films, because again, the intention is always going to be back in the films, right? We're a film festival first and foremost. So we'll do the first batch of films. Typically we'll kind of break for an intermission. When we come back, we'll do our other featured artists. So, this year we've got KM, who's like this amazing Libyan-American rapper / like musician. I mean, he's got like this amazing 7-person band that comes and plays with him while he's like rapping and singing. So he'll do a set, and then we'll show our next batch of films. Our other featured artists will do a set, and then we'll wrap up with like an actual awards ceremony. So Hamza, Huck, and Sarah Jahani, who we mentioned, and then we've got another judge. So those who are going to be judges on our jury, and then we've got a third judge as well, who will come and kind of share who they have as their winners of the festival. So we've got everything from like best film, best cinematography, best acting. We've actually got 2 new awards this year as well. Actually, one new one, and then one that we added a couple of years ago. So we wanted to make sure we still promoted local Edmonton and Alberta-based artists as much as possible. So we have an award specifically for best local artist. And then we've also got this year a new one called we had an award category called the Preview, where it was essentially, okay, we know it's been super hard to make content during COVID. Show us the best thing you can make in your own home, and not like without the big opportunity to go shoot on location or go do like whatever. What can you make at home, and submit that as a film. So we've got the winner of that will also be announced. And then we've got a People's Choice Award as well. So that's something that like everybody in the audience can live vote for while they're there. So so we do that presentation, we do the awards ceremony, and then we wrap up and send everybody to popcorn, where we have a good time. Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
And is this event like the black tie event?
Yeah, so like, I mean, it's not necessarily black tie, but it is, people do kind of, use it as a chance to get dressed up. And
isn't there a red carpet there too? And
there is a red carpet,
yeah.
so I mean, you definitely don't want to look too sloppy, but everybody's style is their own, so there's no dress code per se, but people like to look fly, that's for sure. Yeah.
I would, yeah.
We'll wear our grad dresses.
All the way down to the ground.
Yeah. No ball gown requirements per se, but definitely feel free to,
does not have to be a requirement.
Yeah.
That's so much fun.
It's a great time, and it's for our team. It's like 72 hours of no sleep, but it is like you're wired the entire time just because it's so crazy. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's incredible. It sounds like really exciting at the very beginning too, when you have a lot of things to walk through and a lot of art installations. Do you have any examples or memories of anything that was like your favorite or something really that popped out?
In the past, like there's really 2 opportunities for us to get super creative, right? And the lobby is like a great place to just do some like fun things, but popcorn is like really the big showcase of artistic talent. And for us, it's not just about like what are the artists that we're able to get on display, which again, we've had amazing people on display there, like mostly local artists as well, or Alberta-based artists, I should say. But our last event in 2019, we took over. I don't know if you guys are familiar with. There's a space in City Center Mall that Vignettes actually took over first, and then it was it was like the ATV bank there, and so
sick location,
super sweet location, and so we took that over, and for about 2 weeks, completely converted into what we thought could look amazing for our audience. And so that was probably one of the most like impressive things that I've seen in terms of like transformation of a space from how we took it over, which was still like very cool, had a lot of art in it, but what we presented was like at another level, I thought, and that was something really, really fun and exciting. We're going to be doing the exact same thing this year for Popcorn. We've got even more of a blank canvas, which presents some challenges as well as huge opportunities for us. So I feel like I could probably say it, but I think our official announcement is tomorrow. But I mean, I think this comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes.
Yeah. So we just got confirmation like earlier, actually last week, that we're able to take over the Scotiabank place on 100th Street in Jasper. So Scotiabank used to be there forever and then just recently vacated, and Scotia Place, which is now rebranding to Rice Howard Place because Scotiabank left the building, but it took the space back over, and it's been empty for about the last couple of months, and it is like amazing. It's an amazing thing, like literally 20-foot like windows, like floor to ceiling windows, right on Jasper Ave and 100th Street. And so we got possession yesterday, so we're going to spend the next 2 weeks totally transforming that space.
So fun.
Yeah, we're going to try to post some like behind the scenes stuff too, as we go through it. But yeah, that to me is like our team's artistic talents is so cool to see. Yeah.
How do you even like get a venue like that?
Yeah.
Like, what hoops did you have to jump through?
Great question. Yeah, like I've got some friends in the real estate world who connected me with the property manager there, and I was like, listen, like here's what we do, here's why we do it. We would love to make this space like activated for you guys, right? I mean, for them, it's just sitting there empty, and they were like, okay, we can get back to the community, and we can draw people to our building when
there's nothing there.
Not a lot going on in downtown Edmonton right now.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, how do we make it safe, right? Because that's obviously critical. So I had to get on the phone with the fire department being like, can we get a permit for 500 people in a space that was like fire code capacity for like way less because it was a bank before.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were like, when do you need it by? And I'm like, March 12th. And it was like February 15th. They were like, there's no way. Like these things take like months, right?
Yeah.
We had a different venue locked in before, and it unfortunately fell apart last second. I won't say what it is, just because I don't want to badmouth them, but it was the Bay.
Name drop.
Yeah, and so we were scrambling for Popcorn this year because we thought we had it locked in, and then last second they said, no, we can't do it, and so then we were like, oh my god, what do we do? So the Rice Howard Place or Scotia Place, whatever you want to call it, have been like absolutely awesome to work with.
They
were
that's
like,
incredible.
yeah,
you got lucky there.
Like, no, 100%. I think Morgard is the name of the property management group, so shout out to Morgard. And they were like, yeah, we want to help the community, so whatever you guys need, like as long as it's safe, you get the green light from fire department, let's go. And so I had to hustle hard to get that, but finally got that last week, the special permit for 500 people, and here we are.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, it's really cool. We've done it like in the lobby of Edmonton Tower when that first opened back in 2018, and again, same thing. It was like as one property, is like the Cates Group, I guess. They were like, yeah, want to help the community, let's do it, right? And free of charge, like totally just pay for the security and the cleanup and make sure you don't break anything and get your liability insurance and you're good to go. So it still like is quite the undertaking from an expense standpoint because we're taking essentially a blank shell and turning it into something. But really, really fortunate to get the support of the local community for that too. Yeah.
No kidding.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely getting our tickets.
Yeah.
Right
And
after
Friday,
this.
by the way, actually, while we're giving shout outs to developers, which isn't really something you typically do, but the Friday event is at Epcor Tower, which they haven't done an event since 2018 in that space. So they have a full floor that's like empty, like just 16th floor is just completely like empty. You get like these panoramic view of the city from there.
Oh wow.
So they were down to give us access to that space for the Friday, and it's just like unreal. Same thing, right? Just super kind of them, willing to support the community, and worked out really well. Yeah.
I feel like, especially post-COVID, so many places like they just were like, "Yo, can I use your space?" And they're like, "Yeah, do you need this and this
Totally.
as too?" And we also have this, and it's just like
they're hungry out
everyone's
there.
just ready
They
to
are.
get
They
stuff
honestly
going.
are, and I think like it's a testament to our city too, in the sense of like we're generally willing to help. You know what I mean? Like there's not this, oh well, you know, we need to be paid X money in order to make this happen. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's sitting there empty anyway. Let's activate it. Let's make it work, right? There's this like community vibe that I think a lot of bigger cities struggle with, which makes things like our event possible, you know?
Yeah, that is so true. I've always
Yeah.
wondered that about Edmonton too. What is it about Edmonton that has this almost small town vibe to it?
Totally, yeah.
Neighbors helping neighbors. I
No,
hope
for
so,
sure.
at least. I mean,
Oh, I
that's
agree,
the
yeah.
life I want to believe.
Yeah, right? I mean, it is, we talk about this a lot, where it's like, we're kind of situated in this perfect, like, size of a city, because we're big enough that we've got this Muslim artistic community, we've got enough passionate people who are willing to make this project work, but we're small enough that we've got an opportunity to take advantage of this like small town community, people helping people type thing, as well as the fact that we don't have 100 other organizations competing for the same talent that we're kind of trying to amplify, and so as a result you kind of become like, you know, it's a lot of responsibility. You are the show if you wanted to, you know, be involved with like the artistic community within like the Muslim world.
It's kind of a strength when you put it that
Yeah,
way.
so it's like we've kind of, you know, we've been very fortunate, because like I used to live in New York, and it would be hard to get this level of buy-in from 30 people there. You know what I mean? Because they're all going to be working on their own thing, and there's all sorts of different organizations competing for their attention, and then being like, I think if you were to pull it off, you'd probably get more people at the event, but to pull it off would be crazy hard. So we're lucky that we have like 30 incredibly passionate, dedicated members of our board, which props to Edmonton for that. Although we also have some out of town people, so props to those guys too.
Yeah. Hey. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
And so has the launch of the like Mosquers market space happened?
The makerspace, yeah. So digitally, yes, right? So if you
Right.
go to our website, you can see that entire digital catalog. You can get in touch with them. You can see their work on display, all of that. As it relates to like the physical space itself, we're still working on that. So obviously with COVID and then with Omicron kind of putting further
Everything.
like it just, we couldn't justify pulling the trigger on a lease.
Yeah.
But, you know, hopefully if things start to normalize, that's still a project that we want to pursue. And we've got, like, floor plans already. We've got everything kind of ready to go. We have partnered with another organization in the city who's got another space. And, you know, we've kind of said, okay, maybe as an in-between time, we can work together in their space. But, yeah, we've got this vision of having this high-traffic area location where people could be, like, walking on Jasper Ave and be like, what the hell is this, right?
I love that.
Yeah, and like they can walk in, they can engage with the artist, they can see that there's like amazing things, they can purchase art. We even talked about putting a little like coffee shop in the front where, you know, people can enjoy like the culinary arts of different, you know, Muslim countries, right? So just a way to, you know, without making it about like the text, right? It's not about like scripture or like being like the Islamic religion per se. It's about normalizing the individuals who practice this faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
And recognizing that we've got this amazing diversity of our community that you don't usually get a chance to interact with. And for me, that's like best served in a high traffic area where you get exposure to all sorts of different people all the time. Like even when we were setting up the Makerspace event, right, when we were in that venue, we probably had at least a dozen people stop by and be like, what's going on here? And like, you know, we would talk to them, engage them, and be like, yeah, here's what we're all about. And they'd be like, that's awesome. Like, we want to come to the event. And we're like, yeah, let's come through, right? So it was great. Like it's exactly kind of why I think it's important to make a physical space happen. So fingers crossed we can make that a reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's so exciting.
You talked a little bit about it before, but you have a podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's it all about?
Yeah, so the Halal Gap, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term halal, but basically, so it's a play on words a little bit, but halal is essentially like kosher, like halal is the kind of the type of meat that Muslims are supposed to eat, the way that an animal is sacrificed, and just generally means like things that are permissible, right? So in as like just a colloquialism, I guess is the appropriate term, the halal gap is like oftentimes referred to jokingly as like the gap that like guys and girls will leave between themselves when they're like taking photos or something like that, where it's like you know, where you get the kind of like the term like leave room for Jesus, like that's the halal gap, you know. But so we're just like a bit of a play on words, right? So we thought, okay, well there's that everybody kind of knows of, but then just there's a gap of representation, right, in terms of the artistic community and in terms of just widespread media in general. So we thought, okay, perfect, yeah, the halal gap in terms of the gap of representation of the Muslim community in media. So the entire point of the podcast is to try to speak to creatives who are either currently like hustling hard to try to make a name for themselves within different artistic mediums, or have found some level of success, and hear their story, right? So we never talk about like religion per se unless it kind of naturally comes up. But we're hearing their stories, and as I mentioned, we've had a chance to speak to this like amazing variety of artists, from like Golden Globe winners to world champion wrestlers to like all sorts of like Peabody winning writers, like just this amazing this talented group of people that otherwise, you know, a lot of even people in the Muslim community don't even know about, you know. And just giving, for us, I think a lot of it comes back to, you know, when we were younger, we didn't really have a lot of those people that we could look up to and be like, okay, yeah, this person did it, like, you know. So it's about showcasing some of these pioneers, and then also just maybe normalizing a little bit more for even our own like community, the fact that, hey, this is a legit and like viable career path, and here's how it's not easy, and it's not going to be like linear, but it's doable, right? And
well, don't tell everyone your secrets, you know?
Yeah. No, but it's one of those things where it's like,
it's so true, though.
Representation matters, right? And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And you know, being able to share those stories is
so important.
Is super important for us, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how has the growth been since you guys started like recording your podcasts?
It's been wild, yeah. It's been, you know, first year we had probably about like 8 listeners, even though we had like 20 people on the board. So it was like, what's going on here? And now it's been awesome. Like, you know, we got featured in a couple of different like best of lists, and we've had like amazing growth in our numbers. We're getting sponsorship offers all over the place. So yeah, it's been nothing but awesome from like that perspective, and I got to give a lot of that credit to Asif here, who has like been literally the best researcher you can imagine. I think a lot of what people enjoy about our medium is that it's similar to this, where it's like long format conversation, but we dig deep. He digs deep, more accurately. And so we get well below the surface. It's not just about like what they're working on right now. It's about the person personally, and, you know, how they grew up, and, you know, what kind of pivotal moments in their life happened. And so, yeah, I mean, I think the content of our conversations has also evolved to the point where it's become more engaging for people, which then in turn allows for more exposure. And he's cut up a bunch of our clips for TikTok, and like that's popped off like crazy. And so it's just one of those things where it's like if you create the recorded content and then also have like the video to back it up, you can amplify well beyond just the podcast, right? Like it's grown our social media platform, it's grown our YouTube channel, it's grown, like I said, our TikTok from scratch to like 3,000 followers in like less than half a year, and
Woohoo.
like tens of thousands of hits on each of our videos. Like it's the podcast is great and amazing, but even if like we had 0 listeners on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, the content that you can pull from it is massive. So it's been awesome. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like writing notes here. Okay, yeah, same. We should definitely be doing some of this video recording soon or something. That'd be great.
Talking about it, and then we're like, yeah.
Every once in a while, there's little tidbits that I remember in my brain too of like how well the conversation went, and sometimes they're just so funny, just little tidbits here and there. So yeah, that'd be so hilarious.
Yeah, once you add recording, I'm like look at it and I'm like. Sitting like this the entire podcast. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyways.
No, the extreme close-ups on TikTok are not always flattering, but it's good times. Yeah.
Whatever. It's a lot we have to get over when it comes to recording ourselves too.
Totally.
You know,
totally.
we're gonna be perfect.
No, exactly. It's all good.
And so, how can people get tickets to
event?
All of the events.
So themosquers.com is our website, and that's where all of our tickets live. You could follow us on social media at Mosquers Film Fest, and we post tons of links there to our tickets as well. But yeah, the website is probably the most direct way, and everything is digital. Everything you just get emailed to your QR code, emailed to yourself, and everybody's familiar with QR codes at this point.
Yeah.
And we will have probably a select few number of tickets available at the door. We typically sell a couple hundred tickets on the night of, but as mentioned, if you're looking to also attend our after party popcorn, I would probably guess that it'll be sold out by the time this comes out, but maybe not. Like we might be able to release a few more tickets. So definitely jump on it ASAP. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Lucy just ends up buying them all. Whoops.
There you go. Yeah. Scalp them after.
Selling them for more.
Hey, you want something cool? And this event was lit. Sell them back for $50 more. Yeah.
There you go. Secondary market.
Exclusive. And how has COVID impacted Mosquers and the events?
Yeah, it's been crazy. Like I think mentioned earlier, like even just the actual main showcase being pushed back twice was a lot, like very challenging for the entire team. And obviously we've talked about and touched on like the actual event and the events that have had to be kind of postponed or for the Vibe, a lot of them were canceled, unfortunately. But I would say for me and for like Sophia, who's my co-chair, the biggest challenge that we faced was definitely like how do we keep the team engaged? Like we got a group of volunteers, and you work so hard, and then you have this huge payoff, and you kind of like it's like you're right prior to burnout, and then you get this amazing payoff, and it like re-energizes you, and you're good to go for another year, or like you get fresh faces and they're excited for you, and then like that's the process that's worked, right? But for the last 3 years it was like you're on the cusp of burnout, and then there's no event, and then it's like maybe next year, and it's like like and then you're pushing that, and then it's the same thing, right? It's like that happened twice, and it's this like we've had a bit of turnover on the teams like throughout the last 3 years, but over 70% has stayed intact, and like maybe even over 80% now that I think about it. And that's like amazing, right? Like that, considering there was like they're still working their asses off. It's just like the rug was pulled out from underneath them at the last second, and so we've had to do a lot to try to just keep morale high. We try to do as much like online team building and like fun social events whenever it was safe to do so. We did like Zoom gift exchanges for like the holidays and stuff, like, you know, all sorts of kind of just fun things to keep people engaged. And
it's adorable.
yeah, and like we the big thing for us too was that we wanted to make sure we had regular meetings even if we didn't have a date in the calendar. And you know, for us it was important for everybody to still feel engaged and a part of something that was gonna happen, as well as the fact that we still wanted to push as much digital content as we could throughout the year, right? So that pivot was really big, was like, okay, now we're meeting on, you know, online every week or every 2 weeks, rather than in person, which again creates like this challenge, because when we were meeting in person back in like 2018, everybody would just go get dinner after, you know, and you like develop these like awesome bonds with everybody and become super close. Whereas now it's like, you know, it's 7:30 on a Thursday and you're on Zoom for the last 10 hours because at work you're on Zoom all day, and like you're just over it. And it's like, you know, you can see people's attention kind of like waning a little bit, and you can't blame them. Like it's so tough, right? So that's been by far the biggest adjustment, like organizationally. But yeah, for the Mosquers like events, the externally facing things, huge pivot towards digital, huge pivot towards how do we push our podcast, and how do we push the content we can pull from our podcast, so like the TikTok videos and all that stuff. And then as soon as we were able to, how do we get back in person as quickly as possible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as we're able to, yeah, same.
I feel like the thought of joining a Zoom call makes me like nauseous.
Oh yeah.
Like yeah.
It's been a lot.
Hard to switch to like online, but it looks like you guys have been like doing it really well.
It's been like it's been good, but like, you know, I will say I would say the hardest one is when you have this hybrid, right? Of like a couple of people are online because they're still not comfortable being in a group. A couple of people are in person. Like that's the hardest balance in my opinion, because, you know, now you're dealing with like, oh, what did you say? Oh, you can't hear you like in the back of the room. I can't hear you, like, you know, and then people lose interest, and it's like, oh my God. So when it was everybody digital or like everybody in person, it's pretty manageable. But like, yeah, the last couple of months where it's like half and half, that's been hard, I will say. Yeah.
Yep.
Personally, so hard too. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Life has been changing. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Sounds like your life has been changing a whole lot too. Like,
yeah.
Do you wanna share any personal information? We do have one question on the pod asking, did she say yes?
Yeah. So I had to reschedule this podcast back in February because it was literally the only day that I could propose to my now fiance, and she did say yes. So yeah, that happened, and she said yes.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I think she had very low expectations, which made the entire thing go incredibly well. So I appreciate you guys rescheduling me.
No problem.
Yeah, it was great.
For something like that, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God.
I was reading it, and you're like, so, big secret. I'm proposing. I'm like, no worries, man.
No worries, man.
I was like, I tried moving the proposal, it's not happening. We moved the podcast.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
it was
great. It went over really well.
And what kind of talent has Mosquers brought to Edmonton?
Ooh.
Yeah, we've had a whole slew of people. So it started off a lot of comedians that we would bring in. They would host the event, kind of make things fun for everybody. And we continue to do that throughout. We had, you know, a bunch of big names kind of more in the Muslim communities, like Maz Jabrani, who's a really famous Persian comedian. We brought him a few years ago. Azur Usman, like a bunch of these guys. And Rami Youssef, who's now started to become more in the mainstream. He won a Golden Globe for his show. He's hosted our event twice. We had Brother Ali, who's like a really famous rapper, and Amir Suleiman, who's like an incredible spoken word artist. You know, all sorts of like really cool, diverse creatives. 2019, we wanted to again like specifically shine a light on within the Muslim community, a further underrepresented group. So we did female Muslim creatives as our focus. So we had Salma Hindi, who's like an amazing stand-up comedian. She hosted the event. Mona Hayder, who's a rapper, hijab-wearing rapper, like unreal. She was our featured performer. And then we had Tamiro, who's an amazing local poet, do a spoken word feature for us. So that was awesome. This year we've got like easily the most ambitious slate we've ever had. We've got a light calligrapher from Tunisia named Karim Jabari, who's like he's kind of the pioneer of this like art form of light calligraphy, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. Yeah, but like you literally have these like lightsabers basically doing all these weird patterns, and then
eye tracers.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, like behind you, there's like this amazing display of art out of light.
That is too cool.
So he's gonna be there. We've got a musical duo out of New York called Fudger plus Ali, who's gonna be performing. KM, who's that hip hop artist who's got like this incredible 7-person band that plays with him. He's gonna be doing a set. We've got our host Ismail Lutfi, who's like one of the funniest guys I've ever met. He's going to be hosting the entire event. And then at the after party, and same with previous years, we've got a whole bunch of like more visual artists on display and more kind of still work. So not necessarily like motion pictures, but like photography and painting and calligraphy and all sorts of stuff like that. So that is predominantly more of the local community that we'll be putting on display, but we do also have some kind of more national. We get some guys out of Toronto that are coming to put some things on display too. So and then we've got DJ Double Up, who is apparently I shouldn't say apparently, he is. He's got a big following. He's going to be DJing the after party as well. He's based out of Toronto. He's got like 5.4 million monthly listeners, which is crazy to me. So he's a big deal apparently, and he'll be mixing at the after party too. So wide range of artists basically is the answer.
It sounds like such a good time.
Yes, 100%.
I want to go.
Yeah,
everybody buy your tickets.
We see her DJ and she's like,
yeah.
Art, music, art
It'll
display.
Be a good time. It'll be a good time for sure.
And are you guys like artists yourselves?
I was a very, very amateur filmmaker very long time ago, and then realized that I'm much better served behind the scenes than I am in front or behind the camera. So I don't produce as much content anymore. A lot of people on our team do though. Like we've got videographers, we've got graphic designers, we've got photographers, we've got spoken word artists. Like so our team is very, very artistically inclined in different ways. And Asif is also very artistically inclined, I will say. I don't know if you want to chime in separately.
I do actually have I'm actually on the local shortlist for the Mosquers this year as a film, but mostly on TikTok and YouTube. Just pretty much my strategy is do the dumbest thing I can think of and then make a little video out of it. I will say though, this guy's downplaying himself because podcast hosting is a creative outlet.
That's true.
Yes.
I do agree with that. You guys are very talented at it. I'm taking notes. But yeah,
thank you. So new.
Likewise.
Yeah, Asa's a TikTok superstar.
TikTok superstar.
Not quite there, but
What's your TikTok?
it's SIFQ, SIFQ, same as my Instagram.
SIFQ.
Yeah.
Follow it up.
Thanks.
TikTok schooling.
There you go.
I'm trying to get the Mosquers TikTok going. That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
good
he's the
idea
man
too,
behind
yeah.
the scenes for the Mosquers TikToks and does an amazing job at it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And who are your guys' favorite local visual artists right now?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. Visual artists. Okay, so the guy that I'll gravitate to a lot, I've supported his work for a long time, Rahman Hamid. He's a painter at Rahman Hamid Studios, I think is his Instagram. He does a lot of pop art, and then specifically incorporates a lot of like superheroes within his pop art with like very unique bends to it. So he's like a Pakistani Muslim artist so that kind of shapes his art a little bit, but not like overbearingly so. So I would go with Rahman for local scene. How about you, Asif?
I gotta shout out Narmeen.
Oh, that's a good one.
She's on our board, and she did all these posters
great.
you guys were talking about. And she really killed it with the posters and been killing it the whole time. She's been on the Mosquers.
Yeah, Narmeen Syed. At Narmeen Syed?
Yeah.
I don't know what her Instagram
At something, just go on
Yeah.
Mosquers Film Fest, and she's tagged on all her graphic art. But yeah, she's done an amazing job.
She's an incredible graphic designer for sure.
Now you guys are lucky to have her on the team.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So talented. Yeah.
And Lucy, who's your favorite visual artist this
Who's
week?
my favorite visual artist? Well, I do remember recently mentioning Kaylin Hardstaff, so maybe I'll mention her again. I just have some of her paintings beside me here.
Nice. Yeah.
Look at this pickle jar lady. She looks like COVID.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways,
That's
yes,
great.
look up K Hardstaff Art, Kaylin Hardstaff on Instagram. She's got 2 accounts.
Nice.
And what about you, Grace?
I feel like I could say Hannah again. She did. There's like
Hannah
the bed and the
McMillan,
black
our
and
best
white
friend.
lady. She's
The
super
black and
cool
white
to-
one.
Oh, very cool.
Mm.
Yeah, but
She's
does
clean.
Some super cool stuff. Also,
She's very talented.
Mm.
yeah.
If we're going outside the Muslim community, this dude Dominic LaFrance, who does all of Tom Tunsky's stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He the poster he made for Tom's last event, that was really well
Oh,
done.
that
Like
was
all
really
the
good.
all the ego stuff has looked like
Oh,
very
yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
Everything on Ego is
Yeah.
like it was a particular look that he was going for too, and it's just outstanding. It's kind of simple too, which I really like.
It's clean.
Makes
Yeah,
it so
yeah,
marked
it
because
really
it's
is,
so
yeah.
simple and clean. Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
just stand.
And who are your favorite actors or filmmakers right now?
That's a good one. I
This
would
is the
say,
name drop show.
yeah, right. Like, wait, is this like personal or just generally in the
Oh,
world?
yeah,
Like,
you
in the
know,
world.
like,
In the
or
world?
you know,
Okay.
some of your personal.
Yeah,
but
I
also
mean-
local.
Okay, so like globally, and again, I'll just stay on brand because
Yeah.
we're here to promote the Mosquers. So I'll say Riz Ahmed is probably killing it right now. For those who aren't familiar, he's an actor, he's a rapper, spoken word artist, producer, director, all the mediums basically.
Wow.
And he's also been working with friends of ours who we are pretty close with, called the Pillars Fund in the U.S. to basically help put like scholarly research behind the underrepresentation problem of Muslims, right? In Hollywood. So they did like this huge research paper on like the top 200 films in Hollywood and in the UK, and like how few speaking roles and like non-terrorist / non-trauma victim roles like are played by Muslims, and like it was an incredible like actually putting facts behind what everybody kind of thinks, and so he's just like finally starting to pop off and like use that as a way to be like, okay, now that I've got a bit of a spotlight, I want to shine it in onto like things that matter to me. So Riz is who I'm gonna go with.
So I'm gonna shout out Aqsa Altaf because she has a short on Disney Plus called American Eid, which is about like a 9-year-old girl who petitions to try and get Eid recognized as a holiday in her school. She was on our podcast, and she also, I believe, has a film
Yeah, she does.
in our festival this year.
She's got a finalist film. Yeah.
But yeah, that's actually a really tough question. I was trying to think while he was talking. And
There's so many.
because, like, as part of the podcast, I've made it, like, one of my goals to try and, like, keep my finger on the pulse of, like, what's going on. So when I couldn't think of a filmmaker that came to mind, I was like, damn, this is really bad. But,
It's like, it's either.
What is with these series today?
Crazy. Yeah.
It's either your brain was like, wait, like, who is it? Or we just had Mo on the podcast.
Yeah.
and half of the podcast he was like, shout out to this person, this person, this
And
person,
this person. I'm not done yet.
and my best friend, and I love you. And it's just like,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I was trying to write them all down, and at some point I gave up. It's like, yes, I'll just go over the recording later. We're not adding all these people, but it's so sweet because he's so
awesome.
Popular.
That's wicked. That's wicked. I think our local scene like definitely has a lot of talent that's starting to percolate too. We did an event in Calgary last week, just kind of trying to hype the main event, and even there, like, so many filmmakers who came forward were like, oh yeah, like we've submitted, or like, you know, we want to submit, or we're working on a feature, and like, it's just cool to see that filmmaking is starting to, like, in our community anyway, like, where you kind of are generally pushed towards more traditional career paths, like more and more people are getting comfortable with art as a potential like way of living, not just I do this on the side for fun, but like this is what I want to do with my life, you know. And so it's cool to see, like, even locally, not just on the grand kind of broad spectrum of the world, you know.
I feel especially it's like interesting to see in Edmonton.
Yeah.
How many? Because like before, like when I was younger, I was like, ugh, like I hate Edmonton. It's all just like oil rigs and like, ugh, like I hate it here. But then it's like there's so many artists, and it's kind of like pushing past that, like, oh, you don't know what you want to do, go work on the rigs.
Yeah,
figure it out. And
no, for sure.
Option A or option B, yeah.
Yeah.
We're living in a day and age too where everyone's always romanticizing the idea of literally being homeless, like getting a car, packing up, and just like going on a van ride for the rest of your life. Like our entire generation is like, wouldn't that be great if we could just run away from all this?
I mean, that's
no showers, nothing, but we're romanticizing it. Why? It's because our society is sick.
Yeah.
So we're Muslims, so we don't romanticize that stuff. We're like children of immigrants is like, okay, I gotta become a doctor. Or, that's what we're dealing with.
My mom would beat me if I told her I was gonna get in my van and drive. Like,
where would you go? Where would you go? Wherever I want, Mom.
Oh. What advice do you have to young artists?
I would say, like, I mean, again, my perspective is not one of, like, a kind of a quote-unquote artist myself, I guess, unless we are counting podcast hosts as an art form.
Podcast is art form.
But, you know, for me, it's you know, my exposure has been through connecting with so many other artists and like, being able to provide just a little platform for, you know, a few people, and, like, getting that opportunity to interact with the artistic community that way. I would say two things come to mind. One is, like, just create, right? Like, create. And the coolest thing that I've seen from the Mosquers is I genuinely believe that you don't need a lot of resources in order to make a really strong product, right? Like, we have seen films that had these, like, $50, $60, $70, $80, $100,000 grants for, like, 10-minute short film, like this amazing production quality, amazing like shooting locations, all this stuff. The story was absolute ass, like total terrible bullshit, right? And like, and it's like, what the hell is this? And then you've got films that are like literally made for probably like $2,000 on a camera that someone bought from Best Buy and is going to return right after they're done shooting, which I can probably say I've done back in the day. And like, the script is strong, people are passionate while they're acting, and it's like this awesome experience, right? So I would say, like, create, right? Create. Don't get hung up on, you know, oh, like, there's no way I could make that because I don't have the budget. Like, the budget is, especially when you're thinking about short films, is the least important aspect, you know? Obviously, money will make anything easier as it relates to, like, you know, creative pursuits. And we've had this conversation a lot with podcast guests that we've had throughout this past year about, like, you know, how do you do that balancing act between, like Asif was even joking about earlier, like being children of immigrants where you have a lot less, you know, foundational security of, like, you know, a lot of our parents had to like come here with next to nothing and like try to build something. They want their kids to have something safe and secure, rather than like, you know, try to chase self-actualization, which would like get you beat in a like a household like ours. So, you know, it's like it's like this very, I can appreciate for a lot of young artists, like, okay, I will like I need to think about that aspect as well, right? Like my family aspect, and not just like what do I want to do. And it's been like an ongoing topic of conversation with the artists that we interview, is like, okay, like how did that relationship go with your family as you started to like, you know, break into this as more of like a full-time kind of career? And you know, we also have been talking a lot about like, do you need professional education in order to get into something like this? And like the answers are fascinating. I don't know if I have an opinion one way or the other. Like it wouldn't be for me to say, but I would encourage people to check out our podcast, because the answers are pretty fascinating, and they're very varied. Like I think that's the most interesting thing is like a lot of people say like, yeah, like going to, you know, USC to take film school was like amazing for me because I had an opportunity to learn from these people, but also I could have probably done all of that with YouTube tutorials and done it myself. And so like,
oh my god,
people
YouTube.
like people are all over the place. So to summarize in this giant answer, I would say create, don't worry about budget, and try to learn as much as you can from resources that you have available to you, right? If you're able to go to film school, that's probably an avenue, you know, you might want to consider exploring. But if you can't, YouTube or whatever is possible for you to access is probably just as good for now to get your hands dirty, right? And again, it goes back to creating. So do you have anything to add to that?
So I would actually put myself in the category of the person who's asking that question and needs advice. So I also don't know how qualified I am. But like one thing he said, just create, I would say, yeah, you gotta like be consistent. And that's like one thing that like me personally, like I struggled with being consistent. But with the podcast and the TikToks, it was like, okay, I have to be accountable to these guys because we're dropping every 2 weeks. And then in between the podcast, we got to post the clips from the last podcast. So like forcing yourself to kind of be on that schedule. Like there's these 2 books that I really love. And they haven't helped me yet, but maybe they'll help me one day, and they've helped some of my friends too. And one is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And what Stephen Pressfield says is like, you basically have to treat it like a job. Like people talk a lot about like feeling inspired and like waiting for the right moment, but like he's like, you show up to your job every day when you're sick, when you're hurt, whatever. Like that's how you have to take your art. And so I'm not saying like spend 8 hours a day on it, but like you got to put that time aside and I think be consistent with it. Another quote of his, I don't know if it's actually in the book or not, is like put your ass where your heart wants to be. So one of the things that's been interesting for me is like joining the Mosquers because of the podcast. Is like I always kind of wanted to be involved in this stuff. And when you join an organization that's doing this stuff, it's like it just opens up doors and opportunities and connections that you wouldn't have otherwise if you were just, you know, sitting at home. So like if you're a young artist and you want to get going, like go take videocation at Fava. Like that's where I met Tom Tunsky. Like you put yourself out there, and then like that's how you're going to, you know, meet people and open doors for yourself. So that's it. I'll let you guys know next year if it helped me or not.
We'll do an update podcast around this time next year.
Yeah, exactly.
And how can people, both like artists and also people who are interested in like volunteering with Mosquers, how can they get involved?
Yeah.
Reach out to us. I mean, again, our website has like a email and contact information on that. Our social media is very active. If you send us a message on Instagram, we will get back to you pretty much right away. But yeah, reach out to us and definitely let us know, because we're always looking for people to get involved. We're always looking for artists that we can help to showcase their work. And just one other thing very quickly as it relates to that. For the actual film festival itself, you do not have to be Muslim in order to submit. So you have 2 criteria. One, if you're a Muslim filmmaker, your content can be about literally anything, because for us, as being a Muslim and being a filmmaker is enough of a representation of the diversity of our community, that we don't need your content to also be like hitting people on the head with like the Muslim experience, right? So that's one bucket. But then we also readily invite and always have non-Muslim filmmakers to submit work as well. And for that, what we ask is for them to share what we call the Muslim experience, right? So, you know, whether that's a film about their interaction with a Muslim or the Muslim community, or something that they want to showcase as it relates to, you know, misconceptions or stereotypes or whatever, right? Whatever they want to explore within sort of that Muslim experience, we are more than happy to accept, and have had actually like a lot of success with non-Muslim filmmakers. In fact, I think two of our last 3 winning films were by non-Muslim filmmakers. So really, really cool to see that evolution happen as well, because at the end of the day, it's about building bridges. So encourage you to get involved. You do not have to be Muslim, neither to join our board or to be showcased. We actually like highly encourage it for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Like I love your guys' message of inclusion and
so it's all about
art in general. Like it's so
totally.
Crazy.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are doing a fantastic job.
Appreciate it.
It sounds like some lit events too.
Yeah.
Best way to bring people together: music, art, and partying.
100%. Honestly, though, like that's what it's all about. You don't want to. You're not going to win people over. You're not going to be able to have conversations if it's like lecturing. You know, it's got to be in a manner that is inviting and entertaining. You know, like that's how people are going to care to come up. And otherwise, like, I don't know. It's a tough ask of people if you're just like, oh, come to this symposium with me. Like, nobody gives a shit. Like, you know, that's
never
not...
invite me to that again. Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in the medium for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. And the events are March 12th and
11th and 12th. Yeah. So the 11th is an invite-only event for the creatives that we were trying to collaborate and bring together from that perspective. The March 12th event is the one where the tickets are available online right now, themosquers.com/tickets. And yeah, as mentioned, the after party is also available online, but it might even be sold out by now. I don't know, but it's very, very close to being sold out. So that's one that people should jump on if they're interested.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
That was all of our questions.
Amazing. Thank you
for today.
Yeah, we're right on time.
Yeah.
You guys asked about visual artists and filmmakers, but I was waiting for the opportunity to say Just Mo. Yeah.
Just Mo.
Who are you guys listening to locally?
Yeah, Just Mo, of course.
Just Mo.
Obviously.
Just Mo.
Yeah, just Mo. Yeah.
I've been listening to his stuff on repeat.
There you go.
There's actually so this is not to get confused with KM who's performing at our event. There's a kid in Calgary, he's like a university student, and I invited him to our event, but he's like, I have midterms, I can't come. His name is Kayam, Kayam, and he's only put out a handful of songs, but like they're all really good, really catchy. So
okay, that's just asking for confusion at this point.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna look it up. Yeah.
Kayam and KM. There you go. Cool.
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for coming.
Appreciate having you guys. Thanks for sharing your story and a little bit about Mosquers.
Look forward to hopefully hosting you guys on March 12th.
You know it.
We'll be there.
All right,
Hopefully
awesome.
in our grad dresses.
Yeah. We'll get you sorted. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Right
Do you guys have anything to say to the...
Any last words?
Any last words? Thank you for listening. The event, March 12th. Please check us out.
Yeah, come out on March 12th. It's a great event. It's a great cause. If you don't come, you're Islamophobic. Just keep that in mind.
Keep it in mind.
So come.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you so much. Amazing.
And we out.